Hi, Frank. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, hi, Fabian. Thank you very much. I much appreciate to be there with you.
No, really nice to meet you again. To kick things off, would you mind just briefly introducing yourself, maybe particularly focusing on some of your roles in the automotive industry, and then potentially also touching on your current endeavor?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Franck Louis-Victor. I am currently the VP of Product and Tech within ATX Magellan. You can see the name behind me, which is one of the leaders in the, let's say, audio AI business in France for the moment. We are working with the automotive industry, with media industry to promote the use of in these industries, building new experiences for users and employees and so on. Basically, I'm coming from the automotive industry and the tech industry. I've been an entrepreneur many years in the digital business, especially in the mobile applications, let's say business industry. I also work for the Alliance Renault-Nissan in Japan, in France, and in the US, and I was the head of connected services between 2016 and 2021, just in the heart of this transformation of the automotive industry from a piece of steel and plastic into something which is supposed to be closer to iPhones and smartphones on wheels. And then I moved to the US, Dearborn, very well known to be the headquarters of the Blue Oval Ford Motor Company, where I was leading the new businesses for Ford. And I built the startup studio of Ford, by the way. So all the new businesses beyond the cars. I mean, robo taxis, online distributions of vehicles, subscriptions of electric vehicles, stuff like that. I mean, very interesting, by the way, in the heart of the transformation of this industry. So that's what I am. I try to be quick, but yeah.
No, thank you so much for the overview. It's a fascinating, multifaceted, super inspiring journey, especially for someone like myself who is still sort of in the earlier stages of his career. To sort of build on one of the points you alluded to, the general transformation of the industry from sort of metal boxes essentially to very smart, some people I guess would refer to vehicles as computer on wheels, specifically focusing on the role of AI, maybe especially Gen AI over the past sort of 2.5 years. How profound is this transformation, given that we seem to be seeing sort of two camps in reality, sort of some proof of concepts, and then on the other side, the sort of massive blue sky in terms of potential. What is your take on the significance of that development?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look into AI, and then we could talk about Gen AI, but I think that AI in this industry is a quite recent topic. It started within the manufacturing part of it, which is not Gen AI, but I mean, how you optimize the manufacturing of cars, which is a big stake. I mean, when you look at the way the traditional OEMs are building cars, designing cars before you build them, designing cars and then build cars, compared to what people like Tesla are doing and the Chinese, of course, are doing. Of course, there is such a gap that AI can help to optimize the design of the vehicle, the simplification of vehicle. If you tear down a Ford Model E and the Tesla Model Y, you can see the difference. I mean, it's dramatic. And the simplification comes with less weight, more range, and much more margin for the OEM, right? And that explains also, the difference between the OEMs in terms of valuation and so on. And the Gen AI, which is much more recent, by the way, is quite recent in the automotive industry. Mercedes-Benz just announced, the implementation of ChatGPT in MBUX. Stellantis did the same. It's really, at the very, very beginning of it. And we use it to at least create some value, leveraging the connectivity of the cars and transforming the experience for the users in the cars. We could say that, in a nutshell, that OEMs invested a lot of money, I mean, billions of dollars and euros, to develop big screens, to implement the TCUs, I mean modems in the cars, to connect the cars with the external world. Exactly as you said, to transform these boxes into computers on wheels that are connected with the world to create value. But they really struggled to reach any ROI on this. It started with the investments, but the return was absolutely not there. And my point is that OEMs totally missed the point about the fact that the car is a touch point with the user. They lose the contact with the users. Let's call the users, right? Not drivers, it's passengers and so on. They lose the contact with the users from the moment they give the keys, and the dealers are giving the keys. They try to keep in touch with the users with smartphone apps, but that very few people are using, to be honest, whatever the brand, except Tesla, probably, right? And they never really use the big screen and bigger screens that are in the cars and the speakers and the mic in the cars to create a link, with the users, to do marketing, to communicate, to exchange with the users. And I think that Gen AI is a way to do it by creating content, automatizing the content, personalizing the content, and create interaction with the user. Not just interacting to say, please launch navigation or stuff that never works, by the way, or my respect, but to my former colleagues, but it's, that's the case. But by really, really creating a conversation between the brand and the users, right? And the car is not anymore, from my opinion, a box on wheels, I mean a computer on wheels, but it's a touch point. It's a touch point on wheels for the brand. That's where I believe Gen AI can play a real role.
No, thank you so much for the introduction into that. To dive a little bit deeper into some of the nuances associated with that. So, what specifically would you say are some of the use cases and solutions that you would recommend manufacturers look into today?
Yeah. So typically, of course, the first layer, and we talked about ChatGPT and OpenAI, within MBUX, Stellantis, and so on. Of course, I mean, the very first layer and the very first use case is the conversation with the car itself. I mean, I'm not talking about the brand, the car itself. And you can have some interesting use cases around the user guides, for example, right? So we know that OEMs are moving more and more from the big, big book with very small font that you never use to something which is on the screen, right? But very few people are using that because you don't know that it exists most of the time. And it's not really, really, useful, right? And easy to use to get on a screen and to check what should be the pressure of your tires or whatever, right? And I have a very interesting anecdote about that, by the way. And so with a conversation and a real conversation, if you transform all these user guides into audio content, which is analyzed, summarized, and if you put the LLM or SLM on top of it, then you can really create value for the driver. I have a very, very quick one. I was driving from the east of France, raining like hell on the highway, and suddenly I have a Mercedes. I love this car. Says, tire pressure too low, and it shows the tire pressure. But I don't know how much it's too low. And I mean, honestly, stopping the car, again, it's not rain, it's more than rain. I don't want to do that, right? I ask MBUX, please tell me what should be the pressure, because it's yellow, orange, whatever, but it doesn't say what it should be. And MBUX tell me, oh, sorry, I cannot give you the answer. Fine. You know what I've done? ChatGPT. Please, I have a Mercedes A-Class 250 4MATIC. What should be the pressure of my tires? You know what ChatGPT says? Oh, okay, for your car, your model, the tire pressure should be that and that in the front, that in the back. I said, okay, fine. I'm okay. I can drive. Right? So it already works. So it's a first use case. It's a bit long, but it gives you, an idea that you can do. The second use case for me is exactly what we're doing, using a platform that can really create content beyond the user guide and with on top the interaction. You can work on use cases like drowsiness. I suffer from drowsiness. I crashed 2 cars because I felt asleep at night, and I know it's a very, very important topic, in terms of safety. And we know that listening to music is not enough. Whatever the music you are listening to, if you suffer from drowsiness, you sleep. And the only thing that saves you if you have a passenger, your wife is arguing with you, so you keep your brain awakened, or you have a virtual companion in the car that can discuss with you, not just talk to you, but you have to talk to it. And then you can create some use cases where you say, okay, fine, I'm just falling asleep. Please, let's talk. And what can you do against that? And you can have very, very interesting use cases where, the companion in the car, excites your brain, asking even stupid questions, describing what is around, make some calculations, stuff like that. And it will keep you awake, except of falling asleep and crashing the car, right? It's an example, but you have tons of them. I mean, around sustainability, instead of having, this econometer on the car, say our consumption is now 20 liters per kilometers. I mean, that doesn't make any sense for most of the people. You could have the car talking to you and say, hey, Frank, you drive too fast. You should do that, and right, and talk to you, right? Not in an aggressive way, right? You could have some content again around marketing, monetization of this time that you are spending behind the wheel, right? We spend an average 1 hour per day in Europe behind the wheel. I mean, it's a lot of attention that you can monetize, and so things that are coming, straight to my mind when you ask the question. But we could write a book about that.
It's super fascinating. And I mean, you've worked as a senior leader with automotive companies for many years, and you know how they incentivize, how they operate. How do you spark the interest to actually implement these types of solutions in a meaningful way within OEMs?
So it's a very good question, Fabian. The problem is the way the OEMs are structured. So you have marketing people on the food chain, right? You have, or the command chain, if you will. You have the marketing people. Marketing people, they have that in mind. They have this, you can talk to them and share this kind of use case. Good. But they don't decide what is in the car, right? So that's why, I mean, they can decide what is in the app, but they, not all the time, but sometimes. But so you can build with them very interesting stories, and they are a very interesting entry point. But the point is they will stop very quickly in the depth of the implementation when you talk about execution within the OEM, if you see what I mean. Then you have the program, the vehicle program, the guys who are managing the financial equation of the vehicle. And these guys, I mean, their mission is to have a bottom line, which is X percent. So the guy, they have to reduce the cost at the strict minimum and maximize the value. So, I mean, AI for them, I mean, it's around probably more manufacturing, stuff like that, or a reduction of the cost, simplification, and they don't always get the value which is created. So these guys are difficult to talk to, right? So again, no judgment. It's just because of the briefing. And then you have the guys from the vehicle engineering. And vehicle engineering, the thing is that they are working with specifications. They have specifications, right? It's the V cycles and stuff. And they don't have the complete view. They don't talk to the marketing. They report to the program guys. And so they have a plenty of NVs, technologies, and they have a technological point of view. And so, I mean, again, it's a different layer. It's deeper, in the point of view, so that it's hard to talk to them and to convince them, because they see the technical implementation of it, the value that you create on it. And the guy from the program says that it's too expensive anyway. So, I mean, you are stuck. And there are the design guys. The thing is that the design guys, I believe, could be much more instrumental. But again, they are just one layer in the decision process. Again, the OEMs are so siloed. All these environments and stakeholders are in separate buildings, so separate entities with totally different KPIs. So that's the difficulty. I believe that, long story short, sorry I'm long, with the implementation of Google Gas, for example, on the dashboard, so access to more content in the car from marketing and so on, then you can start to build things, right, having the authorization of the program, of the design, of the engineering, of XYZ people who are sharing the responsibility of things, right? You have to create layers of freedom where people can express themselves, right? I don't know if it's clear, but you tell me.
No, that does make a lot of sense, which sort of leads me to another avenue that I would like to explore a little bit more, which seems to be quite important in this role of technology partners. And I guess the decision around sort of make versus buy with lots of these types of solutions, where currently, at least sort of from my perspective and what I hear from lots of my industry peers, that there's really a push from lots of suppliers with these sort of Gen AI tools and solutions into the OEMs, and they almost seem in some respects overwhelmed, while at the same time potentially not having the sort of holistic strategy in place for Gen AI on an organizational level. I was just wondering, sort of breaking this down a little bit, maybe first, what and in what type of organizational setting would you recommend OEMs internalize some of these capabilities? And then secondly, how would you recommend they approach the conversations with lots of these technology partners that are positioning themselves into the Gen AI space?
So you have, let's say, 4 layers to integrate. You have the people who are bringing content and use cases, startups, I mean, the Spotifys and the world and the ETX Magellan of the world, who can bring use cases and values. You have the very pure tech companies like Google that will bring the LLMs. And when we are talking about Gen AI, I mean, they are bringing technologies that cost billions and billions of dollars. So nobody else will invest into that. So you need them. Then you have the tier ones, the Bosch and Continental of the world. These guys want to do things, and they have ideas, they have plans, they have projects. And you have the OEM itself. And the problem is that the OEM leverage the OEMs leverage the tier one, and they are integrating tier ones. That's the job of OEMs, by the way. They design things and they integrate tier ones. But the relationship they have with tier ones is a master-slave relationship, right? And I've seen that in every OEMs, talking also to Bosch and Conti and so on so many times. They have a master-slave, if you allow me, relationship. So the problem is that they want to control what the tier ones are doing. Right? So they specify what the tier ones are doing, instead of letting, by the way, the tier ones to be like hubs of tech and use cases that could be brought to vehicles, with a binary relationship that would help to bring innovation within the OEMs. And what happened in the recent stories is that OEMs decided, looking at what Tesla is doing, right? Tesla is vertically integrating everything. So they said, oh, we should do the same. So let's do the SDV, software-defined vehicles, ourselves. You look at CARIAD, at VW, you look at Renault, you look at most of the OEMs. They re-internalize the software development for the deepest, layers, technological layers in the car, to have the control of the value which is created. And so they try to remove that from the tier ones, but the tier ones probably are most of the time the most capable to do it, but they have this cultural, constraints that they self-apply, which is I don't know how to push new things, and that could be Gen AI use cases and so on, to the OEMs, because the OEMs won't listen to me, because they never listen to me. They just me to execute the development of this screen, the cheapest possible screen, the cheapest possible TCU, the cheapest possible bus, CAN bus, and so on, right? So I would say that, and I wrote that in an article on LinkedIn months, maybe years ago now, but I think that OEMs should reinvent the relationship that they have with tier ones, and they should either verticalize everything, like Tesla did, but honestly, it's a challenge for them because they are already too big, too fat, so they won't buy anything. Or if they can't do what Tesla is doing because they cannot start from a blank page, they should think in an ecosystemic way to make it. Co-building and co-designing with tier ones and manufacturer, I mean tech providers and so on, right?
Mm.
But it's a tremendous change, cultural change for OEMs. They have
Mm.
so big ego. They are full of egos and so on within their own structures, right? And management.
Mm.
So I
Just
think that
on that last point, I find it super fascinating where if we look at OEMs currently, senior execs, they're almost in some respects disincentivized to implement Gen AI in their functions because I guess power within OEMs means having sort of more people within your respective division or organization and a more significant budget responsibility. And Gen AI essentially aims to sort of cut both of them down. And then secondly, you alluded to this cultural dilemma, this conundrum where we need speed and very capable talent to deliver some of these Gen AI solutions. At the same time, we need to have a really good domain understanding, functional understanding to really work with the teams and on the right problems to implement these solutions. How would you recommend solving some of these challenges? So maybe both the organizational one in terms of incentivization and then also the more operational one in terms of implementing these use cases.
yeah, a fair question. I'm not sure that I have the magical answer to this this question. Otherwise, I would be the CEO of an OEM, but that or not, by the way. But the thing is, again, I was talking about egos and I was talking about history, luggages, and so on. I believe that the verticalization, I mean, vertical integration is probably the key, but it's an impossible key right now. So I believe that because when you have less people focusing on one big task and working together at the same place, it's always more efficient that than trying to assemble teams with different KPIs, in different places and so on. So I think that from the moment that, and you said that, the goals are not the same and, so KPIs are not the same and so on. So from the moment that you don't integrate all these things in one group that shares, the same incentive and the same target, you can't make it. Honestly, I mean, you can't make it. You can't. It's going to be a long way for traditional OEMs to make it work. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have, I mean, the market will be a forcing function. The market will be a forcing function because people will go to the products that are bringing value for money, bringing more emotion for money, and bringing more features and range and, for the money they spend. So if OEMs, traditional OEMs cannot find the right equation and a way to be more efficient and skinnier and, with small group of people who can deliver everything integrated, like Tesla is doing, like BYD is doing and so on, I mean, you're screwed. So that's my point. I believe that you are working for GLR. I believe that the way GLR and I'm a car guy. I'm a fan of vintage cars and so on. I won't talk about the details, but I think that the approach from Jaguar, which is to say I'm taking a different path, because the regular path it's a red ocean. I mean, Chinese will make it honestly, so it's over. So let's take a different path and let's create a product which is absolutely impossible to compare. Right? It makes a lot of sense. Right? If you cannot compete, you have to do it totally differently and you have to come with a totally different product.
Mm.
I'm not sure I will buy this product, but it will change the things, right? It will change the race.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. I guess we've seen over the past 10 years, and you've been part of this transformation of, I guess, consolidation in the automotive industry, where we've seen lots of mergers, alliances, and at the same time, new entrants that seem to have established themselves. You refer to Tesla, Geely, and BYD, and some others. How do you believe this sort of power play of some of the incumbents that seem to, lots of them struggle at the minute? If we look at share prices of Volkswagen and others, they seem to be at an almost all-time low, at least, sort of looking at the past 10 years and announcing factory closures and what have you. At the same time, we've got some of the new entrants from especially Asia expanding quite rapidly on a global scale. What is your perspective on how this competitive landscape might play out over the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
I still didn't receive my crystal ball from Amazon, so no easy answer to this one, or not an answer that I can easily share. I think that so there are two kind of motivations to buy a car. So first, uh, even if I'm a car guy, I'm still honest with myself. I believe that people need cars, right? So and I'm living between east of France and Paris. I'm in Paris right now. You have in Paris big, cities like London and so on. People who say that cars are bad and please ban cars. It's for bad guys, who want to pollute and stuff. Honestly, without a car, I don't know what I would do, right? When I'm in my countryside in the middle of vineyard, I mean, I cannot bike there. So people need cars, which is it's important to remind that, right? People need cars, and it won't go away. Time spent in mobility won't go away. So first, that's the first layer of the Maslow pyramid, if you will. Then the thing is, you can consider that car is just a commodity, right? The cars are commodities, but I don't believe so. I think that for some people, cars are commodities, and the motivation and the triggers will be, like I was saying, value for money, the cost of usage, the TCU, total cost of usage. Okay, fine. But it's not only that. I think that for some people, and it's rated to the way it is, because you spend so much time in that car, the emotion, the cultural part, the emotion that you get from the product, the contribution to your own image, to the world, right? And people are so, interested in the image that they show to the world using Instagram and so on. I think that this very abstract, I mean, emotional part that you cannot touch and quantify is extremely important still. And I think that is where the OEMs can make the difference at some point. Because the Chinese, they will be extremely competitive. And Europe is pushing EVs. And honestly, the best guys to do EVs are the Chinese. They have everything to do it, right? And so the only way OEMs will have, Western OEMs, let's say, will have a path moving forward to survive and makes a difference will be on this glitter, not glitter, but this glimpse of emotion, this spark, that will make the difference. But the thing is, Chinese are also good on that. They are also good with that. They are also good to do sparkling things and lights everywhere and cheap tech that people love. So traditional OEM will have to go further than that, right? Not just putting chromes and lights and big screens. It will have to be more than that. I strongly believe that when Renault is launching the R5, working on this modern vintage emotion, I think they are doing great. I think that when you drive a Porsche or when you drive a BMW or a Mercedes, the right one, I mean, the one that can bring pleasure, I mean, it's something you cannot compare. I still prefer to dream about a Porsche than a BYD. But the thing is, it may change with the new generations. It may change. Honestly, right now, you don't have any kids. that dream about having a BYD when they will be grown up. They still dream about having a Ferrari or a Porsche, but it may change. And that's my biggest fear. When the dream becomes Chinese, then it's going to be the end.
Mm.
So they have to work on that. I believe so.
Yeah. As a final, first of all, I hear this a lot, this differentiation through, I guess brands, but as you alluded to, this might be it's something that we've heard over the past sort of 7-8 years over and over, but it feels like that there needs to be, I guess, real substance behind it, which sort of leads me to, it's an amazing segue to the world of startups and ETX. Let's maybe briefly talk about your current work as well and the motivation behind it, and then maybe zooming out to the role of startups more widely, especially in these areas that we might perceive as differentiators in terms of customer experience along the target customer journey. So let's maybe start with ETX. So what sort of sparked the venture, and what specifically do you do?
Yeah, exactly. So I cannot share everything because we are in a development process
Yeah.
and so on. But I can tell you something. So what we're creating is, in a nutshell, is a platform to help people to create media flow. Like because I mean I believe that radio is more or less about to be almost dead. TV also is a complicated media. It's not personalized. It's just the pure push. Um, you have Spotify's, Audible, and Netflix. It's okay, but these platforms, you have to spend some time to think about what you want to listen or what you want to watch. It's not editorialized. You have, and it doesn't make any sense except Spotify within the car when you are driving because you cannot focus on the screen. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I'm not even talking about it, but Instagram, TikTok, again, these are unfortunately most of the time garbage collectors. So, and I'm using Instagram a lot, but it's you are like hypnotized, when you are swiping on the screen. That's something you don't do when you are biking or running or behind the wheel. So I think that there is some room for a new kind of media, and that's the ambition. In front of Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp of the world, there is some room for a new media, which is a media where you can help people to create contents, and much more than you need contents, but to create flows, like the new radio, new TV, fully automatized because you don't do podcasts. You spend some time to record podcasts. You know that it's a job. It takes times. But if you could just write things, gather things, curate things, and then you put in a machine, and then you could create this way a flow, like a channel that looks and sounds like you. I mean, it would be great. It is exactly what we are doing, creating like a studio that will transform you into the new BBC guy, because you're British, so UK, by the way, helping you to create the new BBC or the new TV channel, and publishing that on the platform that will also allow you to control the way the content is published. Today, when you are creating a Reels publication on Instagram, you don't control the way it's published because it's in the middle of things. Just imagine that I allow you to create that, but you control the flow. It's your flow. It's not mixed with anything, except if you want, but it's not mixed with anything. And you can decide who is looking at it or who is listening at it. And so you can address B2C use cases and you can address B2B use cases because big companies will want to create that to reconnect with their collaborators. Because people with, home office and post-COVID shit show, people don't want to come back to the office. So there is a decoupling between the companies and collaborators. So imagine that we recreate connection using this kind of media with a real control on the way it's shared and used, and you add Gen AI on top of it to be able to discuss with this flow, right? And to interact with this flow. So it's a mix of Instagram, TikTok, radio, TV with ChatGPT on top of it.
Mm.
It's a new media. the ambitious, it's very ambitious, but it's a kind of a new medium.
No, sounds fascinating, and I mean, I've seen lots of incredibly smart guys like yourselves transitioning into creating companies in this space, and I'm very excited about the future in that respect, and see how this plays out. As the final question from my side, imagine that you're speaking to assuming that role exists, a chief data and AI officer who is responsible at one of the incumbent automotive OEMs for the organization-wide data and AI strategy work. What would be your top 3 recommendations to him or her to unlock the most value in a sustainable way from especially the more recent AI developments?
First, work with us on some UX, to do very cool things within these cars, because I really mean it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I have more than 3 things that I would tell him. I mean, because there are some very technical aspects, because I used to do it. So, I mean, I have some concrete experience to answer your questions. I would share with him some recommendations around the way they integrate the LLMs and so on within the cars, because it comes with a lot of consequences around connectivity, for example. Most of the time, OEMs, they don't manage the right amount of connectivity and data within the cars. I would talk to him about all the sensors and the connection between the Gen AI and the bus and the CAN bus and all the sensors within the cars, because Gen AI will make sense and will make a difference with all the NIANs and SIRENs, these things that never worked. It will make a lot of sense from the moment it's really deeply connected to the car. And we are back to the discussion about the layers and so on. So I would tell him, please try to see how you can go and dig deeper in the architecture of the car to create value, and not just stopping at the multimedia screen and implement Gemini or, that's, I think that it doesn't make it's okay, but it's not enough.
Mm.
And Chinese, it makes a long time that Chinese work on these kind of things. I can tell you, I've been to Beijing and so on years ago. Years ago. It was in 2016, 2017, when I was working for the Alliance. And I have seen crazy things 7 years from now. So, and I came back with big eyes and say, guys, we have, I would say that.
No, fascinating. Thank you so much for your time today, Frank. And that's been a very, very insightful conversation, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Fabien. Talk to you soon.